Yeah. So in order to understand how to get the data from a particular function, we'll need to understand the concept of an argument. So basically, argument is nothing but a piece of data that is sent to a function. So for example, turtle.forward 99, 100, 50, whatever the number that you give inside that two parentheses for the forward is the argument for that forward function. So the data that is sent to the particular function is also termed as argument. So the function can use argument in calculations. It can be used in any of the statements, or it can be used in any application that the programmer intends to do with that function. So let's take a look at this example. You have defined main value is equal to 5, and then you are calling the function show double with value as your argument. So here value is set to 5, right? So in this third statement, show double value, the value is still equal to 5. Now, when you are defining this show double, you must create a parameter variable. Notice the difference in terminology. The value, the data that you are sending when you are calling a particular function is its argument. The same data when you are using to create, when you are creating a function is called the parameter variable. So define show number parameter variable, or number in this case, colon, hit enter, result equal to number times 2, print result. So rule of thumb is the total number of arguments that you are passing, that you are basically giving to this function when you are calling, should be equal to the total number of parameter variables when you are defining the function. So as this you have, in this case, as you have value as your one argument, you should also have one parameter variable which will be taking the data from this value. So in this case, value is equal to 5. So value here when you are calling the function is still 5. When you are creating that function, the parameter variable name is number, which is also equal to 5. So the result will be 5 times 2, that is 10. So when you see the output, print result, it will be 10. So the concept where you are basically passing the data of this argument to your function is called as pass by argument, or it is also known as passing arguments to functions. So as I have introduced parameter variable in this example, let's talk about parameter variable a little bit more. So variable that is assigned the value of an argument when the function is called as a parameter variable. So the parameter and the argument refer to the same value. So from the previous example, number and value are equal to 5. So they are basically referencing to the same data. So define function name parameter. So when you are defining a function that is expecting parameters, so the data or the variable that you are trying to name or use is called as a parameter variable. So the scope of this parameter variable is nothing but in which the function in which the parameter is being used. So in this case, the scope of the parameter variable number is this. So the scope of this, the scope of the value is basically the main function. So the scope of this number is show double function. So yeah, as I've mentioned before, value is equal to 5, number is also equal to 5, the result will be 10. So you have now, in this example, you have only looked at one variable and then one parameter variable. Sorry, one argument and then one parameter variable. So you are passing one argument to your function. What if you want to pass multiple arguments to your function? You can always do that by separating the arguments by using a comma. So you can pass multiple arguments, and parameter list replaces the single parameter. So we'll see how that looks. Okay, so the arguments are passed by the position to the corresponding parameters. So the first parameter will receive the first argument's data, the second parameter will receive the second argument data, and so on and so forth. So let's take a look at this example. Inside the main function, you are printing the sum of 12 and 45 e's. And then you are creating a function that is show sum. You're basically calling the show sum function with arguments 12, 45. So you have two arguments, which are number 12, 45. So when you have more arguments or multiple arguments, you are separating those arguments by using a comma. That is mandatory. That is the syntax. If you do not follow this comma, it is just considered as 1245 instead as 12 and 45. So when you are creating the show sum function, or when you are defining the show sum function, define show sum num1 comma num2. As you have two arguments, when you are calling this, you must have two parameter variables to hold that data. So in this case, the data from the first argument will be fed to the parameter variable, to the first parameter variable. The data from the second argument will be fed to the second parameter variable. So here in this statement here, we have num1 is equal to 12, num2 is equal to 45. So with 12 and 45 in num1 and num2, the result will be 12 plus 45, which is 57. So when you print result, the output will be 57. I hope this is clear. This is, this is important. The concept of passing arguments and passing multiple arguments is very important. So let's take a look at this example. Here you are having, till now you have only seen with numbers. Now you are trying to see that same thing with strings. So you have string arguments. You are getting the data, that is first name, last name inside your main function. Input your first name, input your last name, print your name reversed is. So when you look at the statement, your name reversed is, you can guess the function name, that is reverse. So you are just using reverse name as your function call with the arguments, first name and last name. So when you are defining the reverse name function, you could just use any parameter variables. So first, last. So here the first will have the first name, last will have the last name, the data from the last name. Next, when you are printing last first, last name will be printed first, followed by the first name. So calling the main function. I hope this is clear. So now when you are, you could always change the values to the parameter variables. So changes made to the parameter value within the function do not affect the argument. So we will take some examples as well. So such type of concept is called as pass by value. So basically, this provides a unidirectional communication. And let's take a look. So inside the main function, you have value is equal to 99. Next, the print statement is print the value is value. And then you are calling the change me function with the argument value, which is 99. So at line 4, the value is still 99. In the next line, you have print back in the main, the value is value. So now next coming back, so when the interpreter is here, it is jumping to the change me function. So define change me, and the parameter variable here is arg. So the arg value is equal to value, right? So as value is 99, arg is still 99. Print, I'm changing the value. Now the argument, the arg variable value is now set to 0. So even though the value is 99 here and the arg value was initially 99, now it is changed to 0. So now the value is arg 0. So after this statement is executed, the interpreter will jump to here, that is print back in the main value. The value is 99. If you have guessed 99, that is correct. Because note that arg is a parameter variable and it has the scope limited to change me function. Even though you make changes to your parameter variables, it will not affect the original value, that is original argument, that is 99 in this case. So the output of this program will be like the value is 99. I am changing the value. Now the value is 0. Back in the main, the value is 99. That will be the output from this example. So value is first initially set to 99. Arg was initially set to 99. Now you have changed the arg value to 0. So the output is, for the arg, it is 0. I hope this is clear. I'm going to just repeat this one more time. So the changes that you are making to your parameter variables will not affect your arguments. So your argument or the variable that you are defining inside a function is set to its local. So value here is a local variable that is limited to the scope of main. Here arg is a local variable which is also a parameter variable in this case, and it has its scope limited to the change me function. So any changes to this arg variable will not have any impact on the value variable which is defined in a different function, even though it is passed to the change me function as an argument. Okay, I hope that is clear. So now, till now, when you are passing multiple arguments, you have seen that the data from the first argument is fed to the first parameter variable. The data from the second argument is fed to the second parameter variable. So such type of data passing is also called as positional arguments. So basically, this parameter variable, so basically the data, the transfer from the argument to the parameter variable is depending upon the position of this parameter variable, right? So if I have last comma first, last will have the data from the first name, first will have the data from the last name. In this case, as we have first comma last, as the position of the first is 1, it is taking the data from the first argument. As the position of the second parameter variable is 2, it is taking from the data from the second argument. But what if you want to define which parameter variable should take the values from these arguments? Such type of defining to which variables the data should be passed is achieved by using the keyword arguments. So keyword argument will specify which parameter the value should be passed to. So the position when calling the function is irrelevant, no matter at which position that you have. As you are already defining the argument and its parameter values, it really doesn't matter. So we'll also take a look at the example. So the general format is function name. While you are calling the function name, parameter is equal to value. So you are first setting the parameter, and then value here is your argument. So there is a possibility to mix the keyword and positional arguments when calling a function. So when you have, let's say, when you have more than one variable which you do not want to assign, in that case, the positional arguments must appear first. So let's take a look at this example. So you have the main function, and inside that, the first statement is you are calling the show interest function. So notice this, rate is your parameter, 0.01 is the value associated with that parameter variable. So basically 0.01 is your argument. Comma, periods is equal to 10, comma, principal is equal to 10,000. Now when you are defining that show interest, you can just have it any order as you want, but you have to make sure that you are using the same parameter names that you have used while calling that function. So here you have used principal, so I'm using principal. I cannot use a different variable and then can expect that to have 10,000. It should be principal, including the cases as well, as these are case sensitive. So principal, rate, periods, interest is equal to PTR, print. So calling the main function. So the takeaway is whatever keyword arguments that you have used, whatever parameters that you have used while you are calling the function should be defined. The same variables should be used when you are defining or creating a function. The order of these parameter variables in this case is not important. So, let's take a look at this example here. Let's say for the principal, I do not want to define any parameter. I'm just using that as 10,000, but I'm defining my other two arguments. So I have my parameter set to rate is equal to my argument 0.01, comma, periods is my parameter is equal to 10, which is my argument. So when I'm creating this showed interest function, first, if I just have 10,000, it should be 10,000, not 1,000. 10,000 rate is equal to 0.01, 10, it will cause an error. So what you must do, you must define the positional arguments first. So in this case, like when you are creating the show interest, it should have principal, comma, periods, comma, rate, or principal, comma, rate, comma, periods. So the first value that will be getting that data will be from 10,000. So it doesn't matter, like, when you are not defining the keyword, you must use that. You must use a variable that as your positional argument, or a parameter variable, which will be assigned to that unassigned argument. I hope this is clear. So one way to fix this error is show interest, principal, comma, rate, comma, periods, or principal, comma, periods, comma, rate. So the concept of keyword arguments and then passing the value by argument and pass by value, passing multiple arguments, passing single arguments is very important. The terminology can get a little tricky, but it's just with practice. So once you understand and once you clearly understand what the concept is, it will be easier to memorize the terminology as well. So in the next video, we'll be talking about global variables and global constants.